Now let's start at the beginning and briefly cover this sequence where Gordon has a down block in place, but Patrick is unfazed and decides to shoot a double leg anyway, which allows Gordon to transition nicely into an arm drag.
In Gordon's case, he had the cross down block, so he could immediately start attacking the 2-on-1 arm drags and everything else.
And Gordon's able to use that arm drag to get to the single leg and finish the takedown. And when we rewind this, you can see that when doing this arm drag, Gordon's head is on the outside. And when your head is on the outside, arm drags are going to lead nicely into wrestling. And it's a little counterintuitive, but with your head on the outside, it's going to be more difficult to take the back. Because as you're trying to reach for this far hip, your opponent is able to circle it away from you. So if you want to get to that far hip, it's often easier to do so with your head on the inside. And once you have control over that far hip, you should have a good chance at the back. Now, of course, there's a lot of gray area, and here we see Gary Tonin using an arm drag to wrestle up with his head on the outside. And as Gary is reaching for the far hip, his opponent is also trying to square up with him. And after the dust settles, Gary Tonin is not able to take the back, but he ends up on top in the flank position. So his opponent was able to deny hip control just enough to avoid the back take, but not to avoid trouble altogether. But I just wanted to point out that that's probably the reason why Gordon was trying to chase this far hip, but was not able to. But he transitioned beautifully to a single leg and was able to complete the takedown. And if we hop into this sequence on the outlier database, you can see we have that down block to arm drag in the movements. And we also have the training resources associated with this sequence to help you understand and develop these movements. Here we have the Instagram video from Dima talking about the down block. And here we have my old video talking about the head position when doing an arm drag. But I'm a bit embarrassed by that video, so don't watch that, and I recommend you watch Owen's new video breaking it down.
If your head's on the outside, the problem is that my partner can turn his head in to face me, right? Yes, like this, and I start to slip and lose the grip, and this is exactly what happened in a match.
And if you're interested in this tool, it's called the Outlier Database, and the link will be in the description below. And when you sign up, you'll get access to the Discord that now has over 600 people in it. So again, if you're interested, the link will be in the description below, but for now, let's dive into the guard passing of Gordon Ryan. Now, when you're trying to finish a single leg, one strategy could be trying to smash their legs together. Another way to go about it could be to lift their leg and split their legs apart. So there's this idea between smashing the legs together or splitting the legs apart. And we see Joseph demonstrating this concept through his leg pummeling. And he's either trying to smash the legs together or split them apart. And the people that do this well are able to play this dilemma over and over again until there's a breakthrough. Here we see Gordon initially trying a duck under guard pass, and in order to complete the duck under guard pass, he would need to smash his opponent's knees together. But Victor Hugo knows this, so he starts to widen his legs apart, making it very difficult for them to be smashed together. So now instead of fighting to smash the legs, it's going to be more efficient to try and split the legs. And Gordon does that beautifully. Now, I don't want you to think this is just me being really smart. It's a concept that Gordon talks about in his instructional.
So the further his knees are apart now, the easier it is to just hip switch through the middle.
Now, a big part of Gordon's passing game recently has been finding ways to get to his opponent's hip, or what they call the J point, and ultimately looking to get to this position here, and in the database I refer to it as the hip and knee post. And from the hip and knee post position, it's really important that your arm gets inside the hip of their far leg. And by getting our forearm inside that far hip, what we're essentially doing is splitting their legs. And we've seen Gordon and many others use this type of guard passing to get to the hip and knee post. But his match against Patrick Gaudio, I think, is the first time we've seen Gordon deal with this issue here, where he's able to step past the bottom leg to the J point, but his opponent is being very annoying with that top knee, making it very difficult for Gordon to get his forearm inside the far hip. And hopefully by now the answer to this problem seems obvious. If we can't split the legs, we smash them together. And we saw Gordon do this beautifully a few times throughout the match. And this is very hard to deal with because if you split the legs, he'll take the hip and knee post. If your knees come together, he's going to leg ride. And if you decide to not play the game at all with that top knee, then the guard pass becomes very easy. So I think in this match, we got to see the next evolution of Gordon Ryan's high step passing. Now, the next form of guard passing that Gordon's made popular is this overback grip that tapped Felipe Pena. But the thing that was giving Gordon the most problems throughout the match was the threat of deep half guard.
He was very disciplined with just digging his hands underneath my legs to like try to come out the back door from guard passing positions and shoot into deep half, so that was kind of annoying.
Now, in order for someone to be effective from deep half guard, they need to split your legs apart. So one way to counter this is by bringing your legs together or even crossing your feet. And again, this isn't something I came up with, it's what Gordon talks about in his instructional. I'm just trying to present it to you in an organized way.
And I deny him the ability to go into deep half with crossed ankles.
Now, this overback grip is designed to prevent your opponent from straightening their body. But even with this overback grip, if you decide to cross your feet when your opponent has two hands on your hip, granted it might cost a lot of energy, but with our feet together, even with an overback grip, our opponent should be able to straighten their body.
So from here, this will always force me to come up onto my feet.
So the game becomes, if our opponent takes a scoop grip, we're trying to take a crossface or a near side underhook or a near side head block. Anything to try and stop our opponent from getting underneath our center of gravity. But once they take out that scoop grip to post on our hip, now they're not trying to get underneath us, they're trying to extend away from us. So now would be a good time to switch to an overback grip and split your legs apart, to make it very difficult for them to extend themselves. But now if they're really smart and good at playing the dilemma between smashing the legs and splitting the legs, they can quickly switch back to a scoop grip and take advantage of your split legs. And here we can see Gordon playing this game beautifully. When he initially gets to the overback grip, Patrick is posting on his hip, so Gordon has his feet split apart. But once Patrick switches to a scoop grip, Gordon switches to a crossface and brings his legs together. Here we can see Gordon settling down into chest-to-chest half guard, and he takes a crossface and crosses his feet because Gaudio is reaching for that scoop grip. And now here is where I think we get to see the next level of this game being played, where Pedro has a scoop grip on Gordon's leg, so he crosses his feet and starts digging for a crossface. Now the goal of this crossface is to win the battle of knee position. And once Gordon's knee is able to steal the inside position at the hip, it's pretty much a done deal. And if we hop into the training resources, we can see Giancarlo talks about this knee position in his instructional. And the basic idea behind this is we first win the battle of knee position on the near side. And then once we've beaten the near knee, we worry about the far knee.
Now that our knee's inside, now we're safe to go about clearing the knee shield.
Well, that sounds pretty darn similar to what we were doing with our loose passing, where we step into this position here that I've been calling pseudo knee shield, where we've beaten the near leg and now we just have to worry about beating the far leg. And to beat the far leg, we play the game between splitting the legs and smashing them together. And honestly, I think no one beats this near knee better than Gordon. Here we see him initially monitoring the near leg with his hand, and then he hands it off to his leg and starts to dig for underhooks. But as Gaudio is resisting the underhook, Gordon says, cool, no problem, I'm just gonna beat your far leg with my knee. And now that I've beaten both your near leg and your far leg, when I win the upper body battle, it's gonna be a very easy guard pass. Or I can go the other way and smash your cross shoulder post and beat you at the upper body first, before solidifying the win at the near knee and then beating your far knee to establish chest to chest half guard. And honestly, he makes it look so easy and it's very frustrating for his opponents. Even when he's laying limp and it looks like he's doing nothing, he's pinching his knees together, making it very difficult for his opponent to recover their knee position. And then he can start to do things like top pummel into this pseudo knee shield position. And once he beats the near knee, now he looks to beat the far knee. Now this is something Gordon's been doing for a while and I like it a lot, which is why if you go to the training resources for this sequence, you'll see my instructional. Now Andre was almost able to free that near knee, but he can't quite do it. And since he's not having success going right, it makes sense to try and go left. But the problem is when you go left and it doesn't work, now things are really bad. So from a knee shield situation, what I think Gordon does is focus his attention on always beating the bottom leg and baiting his opponent to go the other way and try a knee lever. Because going left a lot of times is going to force you to remove your own knee shield. And we saw that against Patrick Gaudio right off the bat, and Owen talks about it beautifully.
If they just have the knee shield, they have to just shoot their leg through to get an off balance, and that's what Patrick does, but then he ends up in a bottom half guard against Gordon, or a deep half, which is not really where you want to be.
So now when we start talking about what to do when we're past the guard, hopefully it's going to sound really simple and make a lot of sense, because it looks like Gordon just prioritizes having the inside knee position. Now, if you're Gaudio in this situation, what are you gonna do? Your elbow is not inside the knee, and Gordon is just basically sitting on top of your legs with his feet relatively close together, making it very difficult for you to use your lower body to exploit the space between his knees. So one of the only options that makes sense is to build height at the upper body. So he starts building up to an elbow prop. And the basic idea is you're conceding the battle of elbow position at the knee, which makes sense because it looks like Gordon's defenses and attention are all around solidifying that inside knee position. So you can build up to an elbow prop with the goal of shooting your cross shoulder post into place and using it to help recover your guard. Or what's probably more likely going to happen is as you build up to an elbow, Gordon's going to take that Dagestani handcuff, and now things are looking really, really bad. And at this point, Gordon can pretty much do whatever he wants. And we all know he likes to play with his food a little bit, so he lets Gaudio go a few times, before eventually mounting, taking the back, and finishing with the armbar. Now obviously it's super impressive that Gordon calls his submission, but I wanted to focus this video on the lead up to that submission and how Gordon is able to set the stage to do whatever submission he wants.
At the point at which he submitted Patrick Gaudio, he had used technique to fatigue Gaudio to the point where he probably could have got a buggy choke, he could have got a go-go flat, he could have got whatever he wanted.
Now, one thing I will say about the finish is a very interesting idea brought up in this video here, where he pointed out that Gordon armbarred the left arm of Patrick Gaudio. And the left arm is the same left arm that Gaudio used as a cross shoulder post throughout the match. And Gordon was wearing on that left arm from the minute the match hit the floor. Now, this is a very interesting idea, and I'm extremely curious to know if Gordon did this as a deliberate strategy. However, it looks like he took the right arm of the doll off and put it on the bottle of proper whiskey. So because the doll still has its left arm, I'm inclined to believe that this is more of a coincidence instead of a strategy. That's all for this video, and I hope you start to see different ways of splitting the legs or smashing them together from various positions. It's personally something that I'm trying to work on, and I've thought of a few games to help develop that skill. And it's stuff like that that we share in the Discord that's included with your membership to the Outlier database. So be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you there.